Hi, Aleeza.
Hi, Rabbi Dr. Jack. How are you?
How are you?
Good.
I'm a little darker than you.
Okay, fine. Pull the starting card.
No, I went to Miami. It was
That's
nice.
good for you.
We got
Good.
lucky. My wife
I
and
mean,
I
I
got
live in Eretz Yisrael. We have sun. I just, I cover up so that,
Yeah.
just keep this
No, you're
intact.
great. You look great. I'm just going to introduce you. I'll give a little bit of a background. Everyone knows out there that I'm involved in dating. But years ago, when I got involved with this work, I was looking for someone that had common sense. And when I was young, Rab Shlomo Riskin used to come and talk to us from the Upper West Side in our young adult minyan in the Syrian community in Brooklyn. And he taught us something that I remember to Ad Hayom until this day. And he said, common sense is not so common. And so when I went out looking, and I love the didactic part and the scholarship part of dating for articles that I felt that were meaningful and they had depth and had omic to them. Time and time again, I came back to your articles, and as you well know, on my Torah Anytime lectures, I was vigorous in pursuing an agenda that people should read your stuff. Why? Because you're clear, you're to the point, and you're very mitziut. That means you're practical. This is what you got to do in order to be able to be successful at this thing. So what's the inspiration? I think I told you. Why did I decide to do this podcast? Because we're you and I both involved in Klal Yisrael, and everyone's got stuff these days. One of those guys that has stuff is a client of mine from New York. Actually, he's in Cohen right now. Wonderful young man, about 22, who had a medical condition. He continuously had headaches. He'd gone from specialist to specialist, and it wasn't working out. He came to me in the summer. In the summer, I like to go to Tom's River, spend a month or two. I always called you from there, and he came to visit me then, Aleeza, and they thought it was a deviated symptom. They did the surgery. The problem still did not go away. Here he was. He found himself recently in a very long-standing, meaningful relationship, but he's afraid to close the sale because he says, "I'm not going into life with this kind of pain. I don't want to start a relationship with someone and marry someone if I can't get to the bottom of it." I feel so bad for him because he's like sort of a Baal Tshuva. He's considered one of the most outstanding learners in the Deal Kollel there in New Jersey.
Yep.
And so I said, you know what? He tried all these doctors. I said, let's try the spiritual path. And in New York, I was aware that one of the Hasidic Rebbes, a giant, the square Rebbe up north, helps a lot of people with medical conditions. And he's very, very familiar and friendly with the top guys in New York and the girls in New York that were specialized. And there we were. It was a rainy, cold night. We're traveling up there. And he says to me, like I said to you in our text, the Rav, I remember when he had this podcast with Aleeza ben Shalom and it had thousands of viewers, I said, I wasn't even aware. I don't follow these things as much as probably I should or care about to follow them. He said, you should try this again. And so I said, Aleeza, what do you say? Let's do this. Right? And look, we naturally vibe. First of all, I need to tell the audience that you reached out 2 years ago and you granted me a wonderful invitation. What I like the part on Netflix. And it wasn't an easy thing. And then you introduced me to a wonderful person, Ronit Poland, who was very involved in the creative side. And Ronit gave me that insurance. And I had taken a tiny little itsy bitsy part to yours. And that's fine. I'm happy. But it just sort of, amalgamated and like unified us even more. We're on the same page.
Yeah.
We really have the same desires to help as many people out there build Jewish homes. And so you once interviewed me, but I want to hear from you. I'd like to hear from you if you could just tell us, and for me it would be chidush.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear about your background, Aleeza. I'd like to hear where you grew up. I'd like you to seg into how you got into dating, and then we'll take it from there. Go for it.
Okay. Amazing. So thank you, first of all, for agreeing to be a part of the Netflix Jewish matchmaking show. I think that it was a really key moment to see a rabbi, a coach, somebody who's on there giving guidance through the process so people see how these things actually happen in real life and real time. And it was such a beautiful moment. So I just have a lot of gratitude and thank you for that.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
You know what? My deepest desires were actualized, that we should make a Kiddush Hashem, and we did.
The biggest Kiddush Hashem. So thank you.
Pleasure.
I think it could only take the right fit and the right person. And thank God you're the right person. I started asking people, where are you from? So I've got here, I'm from Africa, but based in Israel, and people are chiming in from all over the place. So hello to everybody around the world. I'm in Israel right now. So happy to be living here and traveling around the world and doing a lot of programs. So here's my background. I grew up Jewish. I grew up conservative Jewish, conservative movement Jewish, not politically, but with a love of Judaism, but I wouldn't have called myself traditional. You know, traditional Jews, you know about kashrut and Shabbat, and you observe in a certain way where you have like the flavor of it, but you might not be orthodox, but you're traditionally following all the traditions. I grew up with a strong love of Judaism, an extremely strong love of Eretz Yisrael, but I didn't grow up with all of the traditions. You know, like as we were growing up, my mom started to learn more, and then we did start to keep kosher in the home. But Shabbat really never made it until I brought that to the home, and it was like a little bit too much. You know, it was something that I wanted to do.
Aleeza, what was the hometown? What was hometown for you?
So I grew up outside of Philadelphia in a place called, outside of Philly is the best thing for you to know. Nothing else matters. If you're from New York, it's like, oh, Philadelphia. And I really loved my Judaism. I went to Jewish youth groups, USY and BBYO, which were the conservative and reform movements. And I was always a leader. When I was in university, I was president of Hillel. I was social chairperson, like you name it. I was one of those super involved people. Always a leader and always looking for leadership opportunities. And when I graduated from university, the only thing I wanted to do was go to Israel. I had this strong desire to go to Israel. And I came and I did a program here called WUJIS, World Union of Jewish Students, where we took a Hebrew Ulpan and we did Tiolim all around the country. And it wasn't a religious program, just a secular, like live, love Israel kind of program. And I fell in love with Israel. Like, you want to talk about my first love? My first love is God.
How old were you with that trip?
That trip, I had graduated from university and I was 22. 22.
Very formative years.
Yeah, and I had been to Israel once when I was 17, and I loved it. But living here for almost a year, I just was like, this is my home. And I don't even know why I was saying that, because I didn't have family here. Right now, still, I have second cousins here, and my husband has cousins here.
Wow.
We don't have no parents, no grandparents, no brothers, no sisters, nobody. Us and like cousins that are here, which we love. But like, we don't have very close family here, but I felt drawn to Eretz Yisrael, and I knew I needed to be here. And when I was dating, I said to my husband or whatever, soon to be fiance, like, if you would like to be
significant other.
Yeah, it's like a little whatever. But like, if you would like to be my person, do you want to move to Israel?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, good. When? And he's like, whenever. And I'm like, no. Whenever doesn't work with me. Like 5 years, let's go. We're going get married and we go in 5 years. And he's like, whoa, okay, 10 years. I'm like, forget about it. 7. We'll negotiate to 7. And we signed the deal, so to speak, and said, all right, we're going to go in 7 years. P.S. Life happens, and we made a decision close to the 7-year mark, around year 6. We asked our rabbi, we got guidance. We weren't going for education. We weren't going for parnasa and earning an income. You know, there were a lot of reasons. You know, we weren't going because of family. We were going because we wanted to be here. And the rabbi said, like, you don't have an infrastructure, not just to go, but to stay there. It's not the right time for you to go. And we listened. And honestly, I can look back and I can go, that was.
Aleeza, I was a Talmud of Rabbi the Miller, the Gadol Hador.
I love him.
I knew him since I was 12, and he shaped everything in my life and every decision, including choosing my wife. And he always said to us, only go if you have a plan. Otherwise, you're going to be handling outside shul.
Yeah.
So your Rav was dead right.
The Rav was so spot on. And he asked us the 3 things. Are you going because family wants you there? No. Are you going for chinuch, for education? No, we have great schools in Philadelphia. Are you going for a parnasa to earn an income? No, we're going to have no income. And he's like, Okay, I mean, he didn't laugh at us. I'm laughing. He was very serious. He just said, it's not the right time to go. And my husband and I really knew it. And we kind of mourned the loss of Eretz Yisrael and going. And we let it go. When I say let it go, we did not speak of it for over a decade. From that moment until a decade later, we did not even think about it, talk about it. We just let it be. It wasn't the right time. And about just over a decade later, I said to my husband, I had done a trip to Israel, you know, a mission and a learning mission. And I was like, no, now's the moment. We have to go now, right? Our older kids are now getting old enough that they're aging into and out of high school soon. If we don't get them in the high school years, we're going to miss it. We're going to miss the moment. We got to go now.
Just take a pause and tell me, when did you transition from the conservative style and move into a more orthodox lane?
I did that in my early 20s, early mid 20s, somewhere around 24, turning 25.
Were there any people that were significant? They played role in that? Was it a movement? Was it a Rav? Was it a book?
Yeah.
What was that catalyst for you?
So I went to a retreat by Rabbi David Aaron, and he was doing a lot of retreats in the States at that point, every, 3, 4
Israeli
months,
based?
something. The organization was Israeli based, but it was called Israelite, and they were coming to the States to do different programs.
Right.
And I went to one of those programs, and after the program, I was like, Na'aseh v'nishma, right? Like, I'll do, and then I'll figure it out. Like, I'm in.
Right.
I don't know what all the rules are, but whatever they are, I'm in, game on, let's do this thing. And I really put my whole heart into it. And I decided to take on 4 things. I took on keeping Shabbat, keeping kosher, dressing modestly, and starting to pray. Those were like my Aleeza top 4. And from those 4 things came everything else. And I was—
How did your outlook to life change?
Huge life change.
It
was like, and for, some people do it, they do it like slowly over the course of time, over the course of years. Aleeza makes a decision, watch out. Like, my husband always knows, he's like, if we talk about something, he's like, don't make any decisions. I'm like, you're right.
Because he knows it.
That's it. I think it happens, and he knows what happens. So don't even think about it. So, so that happened over the course of a couple months for me. And then I made a decision, that's it. This is what I'm going to do. I remember the last Pesach, that I didn't keep the whole Pesach. And I said, listen, I can't take off work. I'll do this, but I'm not going to do that. But this is the last time I'm going to do that. And that literally was the last time that I did it. I did it wrong. I said, this is the last time I'm doing it wrong. And then I did it right since then. That was my commitment of what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. And we started dating several months after that retreat, and we got married several months after that. So
when did you meet? In college?
No, we met at this retreat in Orlando with Rabbi David Aaron.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was really
amazing. Then it's blessed. That's Kiddushah.
Such a blessing. And he's also from Philadelphia.
Wow.
So, so we're both from Philly, and it was a really special moment. And we like, getting married is a big thing. So I had a lot of things on my plate. I wanted to keep Shabbat and keep kosher, send my kids to Jewish day school. I wanted to make Aliyah to Israel. Like, I had a whole list of things that you didn't just have to be a good personality and be my look and style. We had to align with all of our values and what we wanted long-term for our relationship.
Amazing. Wow. Yeah. So then take me to how it finally happens. Did you get to Eretz Yisrael?
So in 2016,
I know that it had to do with the COVID era, because I remember talking to you from my summer backyard, and it said, you told me, I think it's happening. We're going to send the kids ahead or something like that. Remember, we were all stowed away? Yeah. Yeah,
everybody was in lockdown. So I'm going to take you a little further back than that, and then
please.
I'll jump ahead.
We want to hear your story.
Yeah. In 2016, I did a women's mission to Israel, and we did learning. And all of a sudden, I started looking around Eretz Yisrael, and I was like, oh my gosh, I got to come home. I got to come now. And I was like, okay, wait, how soon does now mean now? Like, what does now mean? And I was like, 2016, 27, 28, 19, the kids. And then I was doing this whole cheshbon and this calculation in my head. And I was like, we have to go by 2019, because the oldest will be going into high school. The last grade he could go into 10th instead of 9th, so we could push it off, I had this whole cheshbon worked out. And I came back and I'm like, honey, I got it. We're making Aliyah in 2019. And he was like, okay, that's nice, dear, but like, that's not where we're holding. Remember, we talked about it. We're not there yet.
Okay.
I was like, yeah, I know. He's like, okay. He let me talk about it for a little bit. After a couple of weeks, he's like, okay, like, must speak. They, enough. I like move on. I went again in 2018 to Eretz Yisrael and did another trip. And I was like, no, we're really gonna go. He's like, okay, got it. Like, I love you, but not this moment. I went again one more time in 2019. And before I left, he's like, listen, go to Eretz Yisrael, enjoy yourself. Go as many times as you want in a year. Come back. Like, we're not talking about Aliyah right now. This is not where we're
What
at.
do you think, Aleeza, what was holding him back?
We didn't have a plan. We still didn't have a plan. I had like the heart and soul wanted to go, but the parnasa,
Right.
Where to go, what to do. We still don't have family here. We still didn't have all the things set up. Like we didn't have a plan. Fine. 2020 hits. The world is upside down. Everybody's distancing, sitting 10 feet apart with 2 masks on. It's like a whole thing. And I said to him, listen, we're going now. This is no longer negotiable. I'll tell you what happened. This was the moment. Eretz Yisrael locked the doors. You could not fly in or out. The airport was closed. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Completely closed. Doesn't even matter if you're Israeli or not. You couldn't get in the country because of COVID. And I said, something is changing. The whole world is shifting. If you don't see it now, you're blind. Like, Moshiach is on the way. I'm not like screaming from the top, but something is going on. If I'm going to be locked anywhere, you lock me in that country. Don't lock me out. I never want to be locked out. It is not acceptable for a Jew to be locked out of Eretz Yisrael. This is our land. And I said, that's it. We're going. And he looked at me and he goes, when? Like, how soon is now? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm calling Nefesh B'Nefesh, whatever they say. And they said, how many are you? I said, we're 7, 2 adults, 5 kids, and a COVID puppy, by the way. They're like, yeah, like about 6-8 months. So I told my husband, I'm like, 6 months. And he's like, what's the longest you're willing to wait? I'm like, 8 months. That's it. We're going. And he said, how about the next summer? I said, no, I'm not waiting till the summer. He said, okay, like, give me as long as you can give me. So that was July of 2020 that we made the decision we're going to go. October of 2020, we sent our 2 oldest children to a boarding school in Eretz Yisrael. Before, I'm like, hi, by the way, you're making Aliyah. You've never been to Israel, but you're going ahead of us, and that's where we're going to be. And we sent them ahead. And then in March of 2021,
How old were the girls?
It was my son was 17 and our daughter was 2, and they went to a boarding school.
How was that experience?
So
challenging, or was it okay?
Well, our kids adjust well, meaning they're very good with change. The hardest thing was really COVID,
Right.
the lockdowns and not being able to go out, but they were at least with friends. One of our kids did a little bit better at adjusting than the other one, just again, because of COVID. I think if it wasn't COVID, it would have been easier. But, I prepped them. Here's what's going to happen. The language is going to be hard. You're going to have to make new friends. You're going to be uncomfortable in the beginning. You'll get to like it later. I prepped them so that as they transition through it, it wouldn't be a big shock or a surprise to their system. Because if I tell you what's going to happen and then it goes and happens and you're like, wow, look at that. Okay, I knew what was coming. So nothing was a surprise, but COVID was really hard. But it was hard at home anyway. It was hard in America. So like by me, the years of COVID were very, very difficult years. Yeah. If I was going to have difficult Aliyah, then throw it on with COVID. So who cares? You're going to have a miserable, like, the whole experience is going to be hard. Let's just do it all at once. We'll get it over with and we'll move on. And that was my theory, at least. So they came about 4.5 months before my husband and I came with the 3 younger children. They were 7, 9, and 11. And
had you decided your final landing place?
We decided.
In Israel
we decided our final landing place was Pardes, Hanna.
Tell me about that.
We got
What's it like? Yeah. Where is it?
I love where I live. Pardes, Hanna is halfway between Tel Aviv and Haifa. in between that is Caesarea, which is where the aqueducts
Sure.
are. And about 15 minutes east is Pardes, Hanna, inland from the beach. So we're about 15 minutes from the beach. We're about 20 minutes south of Zichron Yaakov, about 10 minutes north of Hadera, if anybody knows those areas.
You make that decision. Why that place? How did you know about it? What was unique about it?
So I made a couple of rules. You know, I have rules about dating and I had rules about Aliyah. And my rules about Aliyah were as follows. We had to move to a place that wasn't a major city. So we didn't want to live in Yerushalayim, Tel Aviv, Haifa, Beersheba, nothing major. I wanted to live in an Israeli community more than an Anglo community. That was very important to me for
That's interesting. Most people would have stage fright because Israelis are strong. I married Israeli, so I know all about it. Why?
I like a little spice.
I like to hear your thoughts. What you wanted them to really integrate into the country well.
I knew that if we moved to an English-speaking community, it would be very hard for my kids to learn it. You have to be immersed in it, and you have to jump in with 2 feet.
Right.
And if you do it the other way, we have friends that move to other communities. Their kids, some of them struggle with Hebrew more. I mean, look, we're struggling with Hebrew. It's not that it's easy, but within 2 months, my kids were speaking playground Hebrew from nothing, FS.
Amazing.
Like my husband and I have some Hebrew because I had some ulpan, but he really has biblical Hebrew and, you know, a few words and some vocabulary here and there, but nothing major. No sentences really. So I knew that for all of us, we had to jump in or we weren't really going to learn. We were just going to live in an Anglo bubble. And I wasn't looking to have a soft landing, and I wasn't looking to move to a mini America. I didn't leave America
to go back
to
America.
To go back to America. Right. I also wasn't like running away from America because what was happening only to land myself here like that. I like Israelis and I like Israel, and I wanted what I knew about Israel 20 years ago when I first fell in love with Israel. I wanted a little slice of that, and you can't get that in the Anglo communities. So that was another thing. Pardes Hanna is full of nature and fruit trees. And
I was about to ask you, Pardes means orchard. Are there orchard trees there?
Every yard has fruit trees. We have like 10 fruit trees that are ours, and then we have our neighbors that are hanging over. So right now we're picking lemons. The neighbor's tree, she's like, take what you want, and then she calls us over, come get the mangoes and come get the fruits. They're dropping. There's too many. It's incredible.
And they probably
incredible. We have
delicious.
Unbelievable. It's like it's the best ever.
My first cousin was executive chef with Sheraton in Tel Aviv, and he was transferred over to America. He goes, the fruit here looks magnificent and tastes like cardboard.
It's yeah. It's unbelievable. The rimonim, the pomegranates are the size of your head.
Wow.
It is not normal. They're enormous. It's just incredible.
You remind me, by the way, I was doing Zerach Shimshon yesterday. He asks a question. Why is it that Yaakov Avinu planted cedar trees in Israel and Canaan and brought them down to Mitzrayim, and from there they took them to build the Mishkan? He wanted to teach the Jews that you're not allowed, if there was not a supply of trees, they would have gone ahead and cut the fruit trees, and that's not allowed. So that's how significant fruit trees mean to us. Even when a Jewish army is at war, you can't cut down a fruit tree of the opponent.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Must be an amazing fragrance in that city.
I just actually heard an incredible story about the date trees that they found seeds at Masada that
I recall.
2,000 years old, and they cultivated them, and they have 6 or 7 now date trees from these 2,000-year-old seeds. Incredible. It's incredible. So yeah, there's fruit trees everywhere. It's a musical, artsy, creative, warm, non-judgmental, very traditional Israeli community. There's Ethiopians, there's people from Yemen, like Taimani, and there's just like such a diverse, rich group.
It's awesome.
And there's Anglos, not plenty, but like maybe out of 40,000 people, there's 200 families that are English speaking. And so you really, like, the kids go to school, and if they have 1 or 2 kids in their class that speak English, great. Everybody else speaks Hebrew. So they're really learning Ivrit b'Ivrit, and they're really picking it up and figuring it out. And it's Magnificent. It's hard. I told them, I said, listen, it's going to be really hard. Probably it'll take 3 to 5 years until your Hebrew is anything that you feel comfortable with. Some of them are still only getting 40%, maybe 50% in the classroom of the information, you know, that they're able to figure it out. And we have a tutor that helps us, and we have somebody that helps us because, you know, even the, you know, like you have an Olim coordinator, when you make Aliyah, somebody to help you. Yeah, she speaks only Hebrew. And I'm like, how do you give an Olim coordinator not like this? Why don't they speak English? Because you live in Pardes, Hanna. I said, fine, it's good. And it's forced me to
This is
use
good.
the Hebrew that I had.
Exactly. This is going to force you. Otherwise, you're going to remain in your comfort zone.
Oh, it's been amazing. I've been using my broken Hebrew. I even did a full Hebrew speaking program. And anytime, if I didn't know a Hebrew word, I threw it out in English. If the whole audience laughed, I knew that the same word in Hebrew was the same in English. If half the audience laughed, I knew who spoke English. So it was great. It's been really a tremendous opportunity. It's also, it's very it's not very hilly here. It's very flat, so it's very walkable and bikeable, and just there's a lot of trails through the fields, and I don't know, it's just, it's delicious. I'm so happy here. It's not for everybody. It's really, you have to know what you're getting into. You have to be a little bit of a pioneer. You have to be somebody who's willing to make your own way. Yeah, and make your own way and not count on the system for being your everything, because the system is all in Hebrew. There's not a lot of support for English speakers here, and it's built that way. And like everybody who lives here, it's like, we like that. That's like, that's part of our struggle. Like, we're going to figure it out. We're going to make it. And look, most of our friends and most of our community are English speakers because my husband doesn't have so much, you know, Hebrew. The kids didn't have enough. I didn't have enough. So it would be hard to very strongly integrate, but we're slowly doing it over the course of time. And it wouldn't happen if we didn't have a community that was heavily Israeli. And so we're very grateful to be here. Very, very grateful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. Very nice. Okay, so why don't we seg into how things evolved in terms of dating from America to Israel? Maybe you'll tell us about how the whole Netflix things originated, and bam, how life has changed for you. I know you've done quite a bit of travel over the past year. How that's changed your private life, and what are you seeing in dating? Maybe I'll share a story with you about what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
And we'll have fun with this.
Okay. So first I'll share one of the biggest differences between Israel and anywhere else in the world is that Israel is still very family oriented. We're very family centered. And so there's a higher motivation for a young person to get married at an earlier age, where I think in the rest of the world, it's happening much later, for sure in America.
1,000%.
Yeah.
I deal with both markets.
But look, in South America, in Australia, in South Africa, in Europe, it is happening a little bit sooner. America's, you know, been aging up, and people are not getting married until much later. But Israel is so family and community centered that you're home, you live at home, you go to the army, you come back. When you're done, it's like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? When are you getting married? Not just what are you going to do with life and for life, like who you're going to do life with.
It's on the radar from the get-go.
From the get-go. It is. And I think that that's something that's unique. And as I'm visiting more communities and seeing many outside communities place a strong stressor on get a job and earn a living, and before you have your family, you know, have enough money to support your family. I'm like, for what? The family that you don't have? The family that who knows when you're going to have it?
That's such a ridiculous thing of America. It's stupid. You know what? We need to have a lot of our singles start to take crash courses in Emunah Bitachon. It's ridiculous.
Right. It needs to work the other way around. And that's really how it works here. So in the last year, I have traveled all over. It's been the biggest blessing in the entire world, because I really get to see couples and communities and how people are engaging with the world. So I was in Australia and London, Chile, Argentina, all over Canada, Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, and all over the United States, north, south, east, and west. And it has been really a big, I would say, learning curve. Like, as much as I knew, to actually sit down and talk with people, one of the things that has come up is that it doesn't matter where you live, wherever you are, there's nobody. Everybody says there's nobody.
I
That is
know.
like the number. If I just move, Aleeza, there's nobody here. I could go to New York City. There's nobody. Oh, really? Because New York, let me just tell you about the population. LA, Miami, you get Toronto, London. You guys have like a gazunta population. No. There's nobody here for me. Okay, well, if you move somewhere else, guess what they're going to tell you? There's nobody there for you too. So there's just
I'm so frustrated that on the beach, this is what I took to read, the Hasidic approach to joy in Miami. Because you need to work on yourself as a coach in this work, in this area, so much to maintain your simcha when you deal with this stuff. And you have to hear it. And you want to sort of change them and say, it's right there. But they're blinders sometimes.
No, it's very hard because when you look around, I know when I was dating and I was looking around and I was going through hundreds of profiles online. It was JDate at the time. And I, doing the way I do it now, like I filter through everything and I'm like, filter, all the things I want, click. Okay, search. How many pop up with my filter? 4 people. And I'm like, 4? You got to be kidding me. Okay, let me remove some of my restrictions. Okay, now I've got 25. 25, really? Okay, let me have less preferences. Okay, pull off less preferences. Oh, now I've got 350. Okay, but they're not what I want. But when I narrow it down to what I actually want, what I'm really looking for, 4 people, that's it. And then none of them, after I go say yes, hello, and nobody responds and there's nothing, I'm like, great. So out of thousands of people in the world, millions of people in the world, I narrow it down to the top 4. And even those aren't even right for me. There's nobody here. There's no, I empathize with when people say there's nobody. I agree. Until I found my husband, there was nobody that was appropriate for me. I dated people. I tried. I made an effort, but nobody was my person until I found my person. And I get it. It's very difficult. And at the same time, modern day, the whole world, literally the whole world is open to me 24/7. Any day of the week, at any hour of the day, I could go somewhere online on social media and meet somebody. Like there's a way to just network and talk to anybody at any time right now, which is incredible. But just because I have that ability doesn't mean that I actually have more options. Because still, how many people are going to be right for me? Who am I? I'm a unique, one-of-a-kind individual. And how many people are actually going to make sense? If you give me 1,000 people out of 1,000, I'd be really happy if there were 5 people that I thought I could really deeply connect with, like that I would want to marry. I'd be thrilled if that was the number. We're all so unique. So I really empathize with people. And every city that I went to, there's nobody here. There's nobody here. There's nobody here. There's nobody here. That's what they're all saying. So first of all, we're all suffering and struggling with the same problem, which is we're not finding our person within our world, within our own communities, and we're not even seeing them further than that, even when we search. So that's one of the great challenges that we're having, that even though we have more options today than we've ever had, we are not feeling more satisfied by the amount of choice.
I lecture a lot, and one of the things that even in Miami, I spoke about the TMC syndrome, too much choice. And I told them about a psychology study at Whole Foods. I thought it's fantastic. There was a research fellow, who set up 2 tables of jellies. One had 6, one had 30. And you get $1 off if you taste, and you ultimately buy. 70% tried more, the one with the selection of 30, right? But only 20% bought at that table. 60% bought at the table with only 6. People can't handle too much choice, and today it's overwhelming. In a matter of seconds on your phone, you could look at hundreds, if not thousands, of profiles.
Yes. And you nailed it. That's analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
I have freedom of choice, and I'm analyzing eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and I can't make a decision. There's too much to choose from. And going back to the model of having your little shtetl, your little community, and like, well, you got these 4 options, and you're like, well, I'll pick the best of the bunch. Okay. And then they built a life. And we were satisfied.
That's right.
We were satisfied. That was just normal. That's just what we did.
Right. Common backgrounds leads to common expectations. Right. Exactly.
So that's one of the things that I've learned from traveling around. The other thing that I've learned is that people, even with more opportunities to meet and more community and more functions, people are lonelier than ever.
Absolutely.
Because
To me, it's Netflix. Maybe because of Netflix, I got more complicated cases. It's been a very challenging year. Very. I'm meeting more and more people who just seem to be lonelier and lonelier, which is it's sad.
Yeah,
Put
it's very hard.
your finger on it.
It's very, very hard. I don't envy anybody in that situation. I told my husband, live for a long time. Like, I don't want to have to go back into this dating zone. It's really difficult right now. It's really hard, and it's very low.
To Steve Eisenberg for an FIDF event in December. Out of the woodworks, a guy comes up to me. He's a producer in Hollywood. It got so bad, he moved to Poland. Come on, Poland. Yeah, he's in Warsaw now. So what are you doing? I mean, just people lose their GPS.
It's very hard. The whole world is open to us, and yet nothing is open to us. Yeah.
I'm going to share an amazing story with you. I was responsible for a fundraising event in probably the busiest shul in New York. It's called the Landau's Shtiebel. It has 62 minyanim a day. 62 minyanim a day. 5,000 to 6,000 people roll through there. Millions of amens throughout the year. So we were responsible for December 29th, 30th, 31st, and January 1st to raise money for 16 brides that approached the Hasidic Rav who runs the place. Even though it's a, it's a cross-cosm of all of Klal Yisrael. A guy comes up to me, he goes, I heard you're involved in dating, but because you're a doctor, I want to talk to you. This blew me away. He had just finished the Technion as an MD, 42 years old, right? He came back from Haifa. He's feeling not so well 4 or 5 months ago, a little jaundiced, and he goes for tests, and they do a sonogram, and he had stage 3 liver cancer.
Oh gosh.
And he goes, I have 4 to 6 years to live. I want to leave a legacy behind. What should I do with my life? Is it possible for me to get married, at least have a child? So for 2 hours, we're having a conversation, Aleeza. What woman would want to step into that? Maybe we're thinking of maybe a divorced woman with 3, 4 kids, maybe an almanah. Wow. Wow. I mean, I got hit with some stuff in my life, but this is just fresh off the press, Wow. Amazing, huh? So yeah, I totally get it when you tell me you've been traveling. I feel bad for people. I'm in this work. I say to them, the finances is not what was once like when I was a physician, but I feel bad. I feel like we have an achrayut, a responsibility, people like you and I, to try to build Jewish homes and put them on the map in lieu of what's going on in the world today, and what's happening to Klal Yisrael, the anti-Semitism. And I'm experienced with it because where you're living, I was just born across the border in Cairo. And I remember in 1967, Molotov cocktails. I was 7 years old going into the synagogues and burning the synagogues just like it was in Germany. I have these vivid memories. And my father-in-law is sitting in an IDF tank outside Cairo listening to every conversation because he's retired from IDF intelligence between Assad and Nasser, and Nasser's trying to bait him to come into the war because the IDF wiped out his whole air force. Understand? So sometimes I want to shake some people up and say, come on, get real. You're wasting your life with nonsense or some of what you think is important. Maybe it's negotiable. Take it off your non-negotiable list. It's been, it's not.
It's very hard, though. It's very hard. Like our satisfaction level, our need to get what we need for it to look right, sound right, feel right. I empathize with people that are struggling to find it. If you asked me, who else would you have married besides your husband? My answer would have been nobody. There was nobody else that looked right, sounded right, or felt right to me. And when I found him, I married him. That was it. I wasn't looking for anything else. But sometimes what I want doesn't want me back, right?
Right.
And sometimes it doesn't work out. And sometimes there's other really difficult situations. The situation that you just brought up with a medical issue and knowing you only have a couple of years to live, there are people who would be open to that. They're looking for something. They want a relationship. They want love, and they want to have however much time is left and build it with somebody and take what they can get, so to speak. So to me, it's not a lost cause or a lost hope, or it's just a very specific mission that has to be taken on immediately. And like you said, what's the legacy I want to live? What do I want to leave when I leave here? What mark do I want to leave on the world? It's really important that we know that. It's really important that we figure those details out, because then we know how to live.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
What do you think? What are you telling? Let's hear this. Let's hear about the dating scene in Israel versus America. How life has changed for you.
The dating scene here is very much alive. People are, whether secular or religious, Jerusalem has its own vibe, Tel Aviv has its own vibe, and everybody is just working to pair people up and bring people together. I don't want to say it's no easier. It's not easy anywhere, but there are more options here than in many places, because you've got a lot of Jews all in one location, and you've got motivated people. I find that people are more serious and more focused on marriage and less on just dating just because. And now, because of the war, people are very much hyper focused on, I want to get married. I want my Jewish soulmate.
Right.
And I want to live this life. Even if they weren't dating Jewish before, they want to date Jewish now. Families that are married and they had their kids, they want to have another child now. Like, there's this motivation to, you can't wipe us off the planet. Like, we're going to be here, and we're going to be strong, and we're going to build our families, and we're going to build our communities. And I think whether somebody's asking
for many reasons, made people face the music if they were trying to run away from their legacy and their heritage. You're Jewish, we're going to let you know about it. And we've seen that, rear its ugly head back here on stateside again and again.
Yeah. And somebody's asking here in the questions, two things. One, if I'm just starting dating, any advice? And number two, how is the dating scene in Israel if you're divorced? So I just have to say, many people are divorced all over the world, not just in Israel.
It's the majority of
it's just kind of normal. And I would just say it's no worse than anywhere else. And if anything, it's better because there's, more options, but you have to know where your place is here and your vibe and your type of people, because there's a lot of different types of communities, and you have to find out where you fit in and where you mesh. And for somebody who's just starting out in dating, they were asking about getting mentorship. You and I, we both believe very strongly in getting coaching and support and getting mentorship. And it's really a key stabilizing yourself through the dating process and making a good choice. So we feel very strongly about getting the support that you need and finding a mentor, finding mentorship that you really value, and getting the right guidance to move ahead. Sometimes it means staying where you are. Sometimes it means you need to move. Sometimes you're dating one way and you really should be dating another type of person. There's a lot of things within the coaching process that even after 1, 2, 3 sessions, you can really figure out a lot and make new decisions to get better dates and more qualified people.
You're empowered.
Exactly.
You have tools now.
Exactly.
You have somewhat of a strategy. Can I ask you, do you see a mistake that people are making today in dating that you're trying to eliminate?
Yes.
Go ahead.
People are making decisions very quickly.
Right.
I think if I just had, I will say this, out of 100% of people, 85% judge too quickly. 15%, they're very clear. They know what they're doing. If it's not for them, they know it's not for them. But 85% of people have a philosophy. If it's not a yes, if I don't know it, if it doesn't just trigger me, and if I don't know that it's my person, it must be a no. And my logic is the other way around. If it's not a hard no, if you're not clear that it's absolutely not your person, it's just a yes for another date. So I want to reverse the logic and say, if it's not a no, it's a yes for another date. That's it. You should go out. It makes sense to go out until it's a hard no. You give me a reason why it's a hard no. Great. Somebody just also asked.
I think you coined it, right? Date until you hate. Isn't that yours?
Hate them. When in doubt, go out. Date until you hate them.
Sad situation.
It's terrible. I don't like like it, but it's terrible. Somebody's asking about, dating. Do we have recommendations for dating mentors or coaches? And do we provide these services? We both provide coaching and mentorship services. You could go to my name, AleezaBenShalom.com, and see, besides myself, I have a whole team of coaches, and Rabbi Dr. Jack has coaching and mentorship services available, along with matchmaking and other things too.
I want to run a scenario by you. One of my favorite writers is Gina Madison.
Love her. Love her.
She's fantastic, and I've quoted her a lot. And she writes, she tells a story about Larry and Linda, who are virtually on the same page. Ecosystem, diet, travel, recreation, music, the works. And she writes, Larry and Linda were enviable. Larry and Linda are now divorced. Why? Because despite the fact that they had all these things in common, they forgot about one thing, that marriage is a spiritual path. And if you're not growing and you don't have that spiritual path, then you're going to hit some rocks in life. Please comment on that. And how much did you get involved in spirituality? And what's your thoughts about marriage being a spiritual path? Because I feel like Hashem made me become a dating coach to do underhanded work there. Yeah. But go ahead, I want to hear your thoughts.
Okay, so I'm gonna hold on. I have my little whiteboard here, and I'll give you a little something that my dad taught me.
Go ahead.
He says this about business, and I'm gonna say about this, about life, about marriage, about dating, about anything, right? So in business, you're either going like this, right? We're going up, or we're going down, right? But what happens when you're just going like this, like flat line, right? Nothing. He says this means you're going down, okay? You really have an option. We are either going and growing up, or we're not. And so we have really only the potential to choose to grow, because if we're not growing, there is no cruise control. There is no put it on pause and just keep going and see what happens. I think probably what's happening in what you're describing also has to do with a deeper issue, which is conflict resolution. So there's growth, which has to happen throughout a relationship. And then there's also conflict resolution, which means we're growing. Oh, we hit a road bump. Oh, we fall. Great. Do you know how to brush off and get back up? Oh, we do. Okay, good. Okay, we're growing and going. Okay, we fall. Do you know how to pick yourself back up? If a couple doesn't know how to pick themselves back up, it doesn't matter how much you have in common. It will never, ever work. And we have to know how to fall, and we have to know how to get back up again. It's not just that we fall and we're never getting back on the bike. We're getting back on the bike. We're learning to ride. We're doing it again. We're skinning our knee. We're doing it again. We do it a little better. We do it a little bit smarter, but we do have to know how to, I'll call it fight right, but we have to know also how to kiss and make up, and how to build a relationship, and to know that there will be challenges, and we will be challenged, and we will get over them too. And we can also make it happen. And it also has to happen. I have a book here that I've been learning and reading. I didn't even think about doing this, but it's just sitting here. It's called Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg.
Beautiful.
And it's an excellent book that gives you the tools how to have a conversation.
Beautiful.
How to have a conversation through nonviolent communication. We need communication, and we have to express what doesn't work for us, but we don't have to get aggressive or crazy about it. We can just say it in an appropriate, healthy way and learn new tools. And I'm reading this and I'm going, oh, that's good. A new tool to add to my tool belt. Like, it's not like I have all the answers and I've been doing this for the last 20 years. I'm constantly learning and constantly growing. And also, when we have a problem, we don't just say, okay, forget about it. I'm done. I'm out. Like, that's it. If you can't agree with me, then I'm out. When my husband and I have an issue, we work through it. We talk about it. We work about it sometimes. And sometimes we don't talk about it. But
that's the beauty of Yiddishkeit. Yiddishkeit forces you to always look at yourself and introspect and see if you're growing. Yes. That's so important.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It's built into our genre.
Yeah.
It's like Rosh Chodesh, examine yourself every 30 days. Yom Kippur, once a year.
Right.
That's what it's all about. I have a couple in Las Vegas. I do Shalom Bayit also. She's a Baal Tshuva. He's not so. She walks a mile to get to the shul. He's busy washing his car and playing tennis. 10 minutes before Kiddush on Shabbat, he gets into his car and he runs down and make the Kiddush. And they have kids, a set of twins, and the cops are always there breaking up fights. It's a problem.
I had a couple
because there's such a discrepancy in the religious level that it's an issue.
Right.
People ask me all the time. I say, what if there's a huge difference in religious level? I said, you need to be somewhat near each other. If it's too big of a gap, you're going to have problems. But if you can see, and you can embrace the beauty of Judaism and what it brings to the table and how it can improve your life. What would life be without Shabbat? What would life be without a Seder on Pesach night? There's no reason to live. It's so colorful. It's so flavorful. It brings such depth to our life. Yeah.
I think that couples, I've seen religious differences as long as there's respect.
Right.
And as long as I value who you are and what you're doing, and I value what you're doing, and we can figure out if there's children involved, what to do and how to do it, and if there's family involved, how we do it. But that's also a part of this conflict resolution. We have to be able to have those skills and have those conversations about how to navigate through these challenging differences, and to acknowledge from the get-go there are differences and we've got to figure this out. This isn't just going to happen.
Describe 1 or 2 red flags that you tell people to be on the lookout for.
Red flags, when people are constantly telling you what's wrong with you, why you need to change. If you only did this, our relationship could work. People who play the blame game.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that's a red flag, and this came up recently, there was a couple and it was sounding like a lovely, beautiful relationship. And I said to her, he's not committed. And she said, what do you mean? I said, it's not you. It can't jump in with 2 feet, and love doesn't matter. I love you, you love me. Who really cares? Love isn't enough. You need love. I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but love doesn't conquer all. Love isn't enough to sustain a relationship. And even though you love each other, I'm not sure how this relationship is going to work. There's something.
Would you say there's some truth to Perkavot and more me'at va'aseh harbeh? Actions speak louder than words.
Right. And I said, he's not all in.
Right.
And she said, how do you know? I said, I've seen it so many times. I know he's not all in. And she recently told me, man, you are good and you are right. And it is over. And I was like, I am really sorry. I'm really sorry. She said, but you see it, you know it. I said, yeah, he wasn't buying in, but it's not you. He's not buying into anybody. Don't worry. He's not running off with somebody else and getting married. He can't be all. He can't. He just can't. He's not all in. He's not all in.
How do you feel about these relationships that go 7 months, a year and a half?
Okay.
And they're dating and dating.
I have opinions.
I want
my opinions.
to hear those opinions.
My opinions go like this: whether somebody is secular or religious, whether it's any age, I don't care if you're 18 or 89, makes no difference to me. I think that within 6 months of dating, you will know I could marry you. I'm not saying you have to get married. You don't need to get engaged at that second. But I do believe that if you're dating properly, within 6 months, you will and should know if this is a person that you can and want to marry, and if not. And my issue becomes when people date for 7 months and a year and a half and 2 years and 3 years and 5 years, is that when you break up, it's like a divorce. We didn't even have the blessing of a marriage. We didn't have the opening from the heavens to send down all the blessings. And yet it feels to me like a divorce, because we have worked to enmesh and build our lives together, and there's no commitment that's there. And then boom, it breaks. And all of a sudden my whole world shatters. And you have all of the heartbreak of a divorce and none of the blessings of the marriage. So I don't love it. If after 6 months, 7, 8 at the max, somebody's still like, oh, I don't know if this is the right thing, then I am not happy. I think it to lead to heartbreak.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a question. Rather, I'm going to pose a concept to you, and I'm going to hear your thoughts. Often when I start a lecture, I'll pull Dr. Abraham Twersky, who says that we Jews date with our heads, not our hearts. We're cerebral daters. Your thoughts on that comment?
Some people are. I think probably 70% of daters are head daters, and about 30% are heart daters. And everybody's a combination, but leaning more heavily towards the head. A lot of people spin out in their thinking, and it makes it very difficult for them to make a decision. And I don't think that a decision should be done only by the head, and I also don't think that it should be done only by the heart. I think there has to be an amount of alignment in order for it to be a solid, good, real decision.
The whole area of physical attraction gets a lot of, hype and a lot of praise. And do you think that there's
You
an
want to go
over-exaggeration
there?
there
You want to
today?
go there?
I was going to save the best for last.
You got to start with that. I need an hour. No, it's okay. All right. I'll tell you my philosophy. You can tell me yours. I know you and I are so in sync. When I met you the first time, I was like, man, he and I, we have really very similar
Very much
philosophies. We have our own flavor.
You know what? Hashem blessed us both with Sechel Yashar. Just a straight head.
Yeah,
that's it. Thank you, Hashem.
We both have a different flavor of how we deliver, but we have very similar philosophies. So, physical attraction like this. We are a neshama, we are a soul, and we are a body, right? We're two things. We're that inside, we're that essence of who we are, and we're that body that when you look at somebody and they're like, they give you a little once over. There's something on the inside and the outside. I like to say it like this: personality doesn't sag. Okay, right? My face is going to continue to get more and more and more wrinkled over the years. If I am blessed with old age, I will get wrinkled. Okay, I can fix it with some cosmetic surgery.
Botox goes a long way.
Yeah, Botox goes a long way. But if I don't believe in those things and I don't do those things, my skin will sag. But personality is like a fine wine. Over time, it is going to evolve. It's going to get better. I don't know if fine wines all evolve over time. Maybe they have their expiration dates, but over time, personalities that shine, they start to sparkle. They look even better the older they get. But bodies don't. And it doesn't matter how gorgeous or handsome somebody is, they are going to age and they are going to not look great as they age, not as great as they once looked. Okay, I'm not saying that older people don't look great, but if we look at traditionally what people look at as beautiful, right? 20s and 30s and into the 40s, right? And then 50s, we're starting to turn. I'm already, approaching that time frame, and I'm seeing shifts, and the body changes. The body changes, but I can't tell you don't go for it, because there's many different types of bodies, and if God wanted you to be with anybody, then we would have all looked identical. We would have been identical twins in the whole entire world. Men would have all looked like men, and women would have all looked like women, and nobody would have looked different. So we are supposed to have preferences, but if I have to lean in one direction or the other, I definitely want to lean in the direction of the personality with a body that works for you, that can be okay, that can be good enough to grow. But the personality, if you marry a body that you like, you're going to also get divorced over a body that you like. I don't know anybody who gets divorced and go, wow, she has just the best personality and treats me so well, and I can't live with her. I want a divorce, right? But they can look at a gorgeous or handsome model and be like, well, you're beautiful, objectively beautiful, but in my eyes, you're ugly, and I want a divorce, and I want out. And it's not because of how you treat, because of how you look. It's clearly because of how you treat me. So if I know over the course of time that what I have on the inside is going to get better and it's going to sparkle, and the outside, I'm going to have to figure out how to become beloved to me, how I can appreciate things. Okay. But if I go for a body that I like and the inside isn't something that I like, it's never going to be something that can last.
Yeah, I often like to quote something like John Gray wrote. He was the famous guy from Men of the Moon. He writes, when he was a therapist in Hollywood, he saw a common something that was happening. Beautiful women coming in to see him, models and actresses, and saying that their husbands are not attracted to them. And he coined the phrase, when attraction of the body is not integrated with attraction of the soul, there's no future.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the key. You're right. You're right. Skin sags, but personality doesn't. Beautiful point. Very nice.
Personality shines and gets better over time. Better.
Right.
Better.
As you get to know each other more, you become one unit, one team.
As you evolve as a person, you start to sparkle and shine so much more. Your greatness, and it is like that refinement of diamonds, like that one refines the other, and that's how we come out with a gorgeous diamond. We have to like cut and chip away to perfect each other, and we do that together. But starting out with a strong base, that's a beautiful internal base, and an external base that is good for you, it's the best. It's the best.
Wow. Aleeza, an hour with you is like 5 minutes. I think I'll just close that. Occasionally, more than occasionally, people will ask me, what's the future of the series? Do you have any heads up here?
No heads
up
no heads up as of yet, but whatever it is, we'll do great things together.
Of course.
We'll figure out what to do next.
Absolutely. I want to take this opportunity to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being such a great friend, for being such an active assistant to the Klal Yisrael. I've learned a lot from you. We've learned a lot from each other. We've been able to share and help and grow. Thank you for giving me an hour of your very busy schedule. I look forward to seeing you. Yeah. And,
look forward to doing many good things.
We missed you. We had a wedding 3 weeks ago. He's already ensconced in Kollel with his new wife. Yay. She's a teacher. He's learning Torah, Baruch Hashem. And we should always see good things with Klal Yisrael. And we should, above all, join you in Israel quickly, because you have it right. We have it wrong.
Amen. Amen. I cannot wait to see you all here. Come visit.
Okay. Hatzlacha in everything you do. Hashem should shine all these bounty on you. And when you come into stateside, we got to see each other.
That sounds great. Amazing. Save this line. Save this line.